folks out here at the ballpark. 3-2 to Cal. The pitch from Acevedo. A drive deep to right field. Down the line. The Mariners win this game 2-1. The dream lives. They're going to the playoffs. The drought is over. Cal Raleigh. Wow. Hey now. Hey now. Hey now.
Hello, one. And welcome to Chit Chat, the encouraging one another podcast. Today's episode, I'm doing something a little different. You see, something incredible happened on September 30th, 2022. But before we dive into that, have you ever heard this before? Get out the right bread, mustard, grandma, it's grand salami time! If you haven't, I'm sorry. But if you have, you've watched a few Seattle Mariner games. That call came from my legendary broadcaster, Dave Niehaus. The Pacific Northwest has gone 21 years without our home team making the playoffs. And last year, falling short by one game. But ladies and gentlemen, it has finally happened. The 21-year drought has come to an end. I'm reaching out to sports personalities and others and getting to share how very special this moment is for them and many generations who've never seen playoff baseball in Seattle. Hopefully in Seattle, we're in the playoffs. That's all that matters to us, right? For most fans, most baseball fans, they know who Cal Ripken is. He played for the Baltimore Orioles for 21 years, but those in Seattle, Washington will never forget the name Cal Raleigh, as he hit a walk-off home run against the Oakland A's to set up a ticket for the Mariners to making the playoffs. This is Chit Chat, the encouraging one another podcast, and this podcast is all about Seattle Mariner baseball, getting reactions from fans, sports personalities, and others. I'm excited. I'm a big sports fan, especially baseball. Kick back and relax. This can be a fun ride. This is Chit and Chat. Welcome back for a brief interview about something that hasn't happened in 21 years.
No doubt. Crazy, huh?
How long have you been a Seattle Mariner fan, by the way, Keith?
Oh, probably since I was 12, I guess.
Okay.
I moved from Kansas to Spokane right after 6th grade. So I think I had turned 12 about a month before I moved to Spokane.
For those listening, I'm reaching out to Keith Theron and getting his reaction of the Seattle Mariners making the playoffs in this special episode of Chit and Chat. And do you remember the last time the Mariners made the playoffs where you were at?
Yes, because the last time, if I'm remembering correctly, the last time was when we won the one-game playoff. No, that's not true. We've made it since then.
Yep. 2001.
Say that again?
I think it's 2001. 95 was a one-game playoff, I think.
Right. So 95 was the one that I really remember because I was at that one-game playoff.
Oh, no way.
And I was a youth pastor, and I took one of my high school kids for a very, very long dentist appointment that day. because it was like a 12:30 start, because whatever team won had to fly to wherever it was they were playing the next day, because that was supposed to be a travel day. And we were one of the 8,000 people or whatever that made it down on the field before the security got everything under control. And so I got a little piece of the pitcher's mound, and it was crazy. Complete craziness.
Awesome. Last year, the Mariners missed the playoffs by one game.
Yeah.
Did you think they had a chance making the playoffs this year?
Did I think? Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, I thought they did. I mean, I thought that it would, if they were going to make it, it was going to be the way they made it, where they actually made it. Because Houston is just a legitimately solid team that didn't get weaker. So I wasn't thinking that we were going to overpower Houston. we'll see what happens next year. But it's gonna be super fun. But man, we've got a tough road ahead of us. That's for sure.
So, where were you at September 30th, 2022? Were you watching the game? Were you either engaged with something else?
Just a couple days ago or whatever when we
Yeah.
clinched.
Yep.
I was actually Friday night. I was at my son's football game, but there was a group from our youth pastor and several people from our church, my wife and some grandparents and some other just friends and youth leaders and just friends from church had come to watch the football game because there were some people from our church on both high school teams. And we were sitting up in the stands, and the game was had a minute and a half left in the football game. My son had just been the starters had all been pulled out, and so one of the guys pulled it up on his phone, and we were watching it on his phone. And this guy is a way bigger. I should actually give you his number because he's a way bigger Mariners fan even than I am, just as far as emotional investment. Younger than I am. He's been alive about as long as I've been a Mariners fan. Not even. And but he was honestly overcome with emotion to the point where I had to grab the phone out of his hand so he didn't drop it. So we've got this 25, 26-year-old kid barely able to hold it together. Everybody else is just cheering. I'm holding the phone. We're watching the absolute insanity unfold on the field. And it was bonkers, but we were outside at a football game watching a baseball game.
Pretty special moment, huh?
Yeah. Where were you?
I was working actually at my little part-time job. I watched the Baltimore game on my phone, and Root Sports obviously isn't on YouTube Live. Sorry, Root. But I was just kind of scrolling through Facebook. I'm like, hey, what? Did we? And I watched the Cal Raleigh home run about 10 times.
Right.
So I was probably a half hour behind everybody else in the world knowing we made the playoffs, but
yeah, it was definitely crazy to just think the longest, not only the longest drought in baseball, but baseball, basketball, football, and hockey combined. I think it's in all four, at least baseball, football, and basketball.
I just saw the Philadelphia Phillies made the playoffs. They cut I don't know their streak, how long they were out of the playoffs, but it was quite a while as well.
Yeah. So it's definitely cool, and it'll be interesting. It looks like we'll be going to Toronto on Friday, and so we'll see. We've got, like I said, we got a long road now that the first round is best 2 out of 3 with all 3 games being on the road. So
in your opinion, how far do you think we can go?
I think we'll figure out a way to win this first round, and then I think we'll probably go to Houston. And it's a 5-game series against Houston. It'll be a 5-game series against Houston. So I think we'll probably, and realistically, I think we'll win this one in 3, and we'll be tired, and we'll lose in 4. I think we'll win 1 game, but I think so. I hope I'm really wrong and we go crazy. I think what's interesting is our pitching has been just so stellar all year, and those guys have in the last 6 or 8 days kind of actually not shown their invincibleness as much, which makes me nervous going into the playoffs. I wish those guys were still, pitching 7-8 innings with 1 run, giving up 1 run, but
right.
They've been, a couple of our key guys have been struggling, and so I don't know. Baseball's a weird thing in the playoffs. It's like everybody just gets their energy back, and new things happen, and teams that should go all the way get swept. And I don't know. I think that if we can, I think we can get past Toronto. I think it's going to be hard to get past Houston, but if we get past Houston, then I think we can go far, because I think that we're a better matchup for the Yankees than we are Houston.
So if we got to go to Cleveland, New York bracket, how do you feel like that side of the bracket?
I think Cleveland is going to beat Tampa Bay and then lose to New York.
Okay.
So I think it's. what do I think is going to happen? I think that the number 1 and number 2 seeds, the Yankees and the Houston Astros, I think they are the most well-rounded team. So I think it's going to be those two teams. But as somebody whose relatives grew up in Rhode Island and were huge Boston Red Sox fans, I would love to see the Yankees, lose in 3 games next week.
We definitely can use the mojo from way back when. I think if we get the mojo and the fans, maybe the playoff game at home and really get the fans going. Who knows what's going to happen? The playoffs are the playoffs. You never know what's going to happen.
You never know. Never know. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, if our pitchers are good enough that we could go in and win some, 2-1, 1-0, 3-2. I mean, we could do that because we've got some pitchers that can definitely shut people down. So just depends if our bats are the things that are.
Yeah.
Sometimes our bats are, we'll go and put up 11 runs one night and 1 run the next, and that can be fine in the regular season, but that does not go very far in the playoffs.
No, I think you really need a little bit of both. Really good pitching, and a bullpen to hold it down for you, and bats to don't leave runners on the field. Yeah, get those suckers in because they're very, very valuable, and don't give up a lot of walks. Walks usually bite you in the butt anyway.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for the time. I really appreciate it, and fingers crossed. Next time we talk, we'll be World Series champions.
Oh boy, wouldn't that be a dream?
Take care of yourself. Thanks so much.
All right, thanks, brother. See ya.
Thanks again.
Yep, my pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Welcome to the Chit Chat, encouraging one another podcast, a brief podcast about history in the making. Seattle Mariners making the playoffs.
Awesome. I love it.
I know you're a big Seahawk fan. This is Green Hawk, by the way.
Yeah.
You're also a Mariner fan, right?
I am. Yeah, I actually grew up with the Mariners.
Oh, how many years is that? A few?
Quite a few.
So, do you remember when you were at the last time the Mariners made the playoffs?
Yeah. I mean, everybody knows 2001.
And where were you at?
I was actually stuck in a car on the way home listening to the game.
They break down on you? You're stuck in traffic.
No. I unfortunately couldn't get out of work. I had tickets to that game and ended up giving them away.
Oh.
Yeah. So I literally listened to it at work the entire time and listened to the entire thing go down with everything.
Oh, man. And, last year, the Mariners were so close, missing it by 1 game. Do you think they did enough in the offseason to jump into the playoffs this year? I mean, they did a few wheelings and dealings, but did you think they had enough to get into the playoffs?
Yeah, well, they've been working for years, and partly because of ownership, partly because of the skipper, they just have not been able to put something together that would be good enough to get into the playoffs.
What do you think of Julio Rodriguez? Oh my goodness!
Oh, he is by far the greatest thing that they picked up since Griffey.
Oh, yeah, he is just a stud.
I mean, yeah, they knew that he was what he was. I mean, they knew it when he came into spring training, and there was the buzz, and Ken Griffey Jr. was there, and Ken Griffey Jr. He knows. He's been there, and he was just absolutely excited about the kid.
So September 30th, 2022, we'll go down in history when they made the playoffs the first time in 21 years. Where were you at?
What do you mean, when it happened now, or when?
Yep, last Friday when they made it. Were you at the game?
We were actually watching it from home. So, okay. Yeah.
A little bit of celebrating going on?
Yeah, we were freaking out. Yeah, I know you've seen the TikTok video. We were definitely freaking out because we were planning on going to the next game because we figured that the next game would probably be that one. It's like you're trying to shoot for 1 in a million.
Right.
So we knew it was going to be one of the games over that couple day span. So we guessed one day late and ended up missing it. So
I'm gonna put you on the spot. In your opinion, how far do you believe, in your heart of hearts, the Mariners can go through the playoffs?
the way they are playing now, I honestly think that they can make it to the World Series, if not win it.
Mm.
I really do, because they've played. If you watch the games they played this season, they've played with guys out. They've played small ball in one games. They've played, big ball where it's just all home runs all night long in one game. So it's like that's part of the sport, is there's an adversity to be able to face.
And you gotta be solid across the board, from pitching to relievers to coming off the bench for a big hit. You got to be solid in all areas. I think the Mariners are quite there, actually.
Yeah, I agree, because they you have, like I said, you have to be able to win the big games, but also you have to be able to win that game where it's a pitching duel against a top pitcher, and you win 1-0 or 1-1 or 2-1, or you have to be able to fight out those small ball games.
Yeah, those we call them boring games at times, but they're down to the wire. You're on your hands and knees going, please, 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 please.
Yeah, exactly. I don't get me wrong. I love the huge home runs and the deep ball, but those are the games that win you the World Series, is the pitching duels.
Right. Yeah. So I'm pretty jacked. I think Toronto will be tough for us. So you think we're gonna be able to take 2 out of 3, or what?
It's going to be interesting, because we beat up Toronto a couple times this year pretty good. Mm-hmm. So they're going to be wanting to pay us back real bad.
Oh yeah, those games are usually. I haven't been quite a while, but those games are usually just packed with Canadians coming down to watch the game.
Yeah, those are the games you never underestimate, because that guy's gonna. You beat him up a couple times, and he's going to come back really angry.
Yeah, so
he's going to be wanting blood, and you got to be able to fight that out with him, and whether it be a pitching duel or just crushing it with home runs.
But how does it sound? Seattle Mariners World Series champions. That's got a nice ring to it.
You know what? I would love it. If they win the World Series, then I will definitely add it to my ink collection. So,
and I was telling some folks I talked to, I don't mind having a crappy Seahawks season. The Mariners can win the World Series.
Yeah.
It's been so long overdue for that organization.
Yeah, it really has, because I follow all Seattle sports, and as the Storm has won championships. The rugby team, our professional rugby team, the Seawolves, have won 2 championships.
And Sounders been in there,
and the Sounders have won 2 championships. And the Kraken are brand new, but their organization technically has already won a championship. Yeah. So
hopefully the Sonics will be next.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and the Sonics. It was many years ago, but yeah, the Sonics also won. So.
Well, thanks so much for the time. I just appreciate you hopping on. I'm piecing together a little montage of interviews about the Mariners making the postseason. So thanks so much, and go Seahawks and go Mariners.
I appreciate your time. Thank you much, and go Hawks and go Mariners.
Have a great night. Thank you.
All right, you too. Bye.
Good morning, Dick.
Hey, Jody. How are you?
Not too bad. Yourself?
Good, man.
Thanks for giving me a few minutes this morning.
No worries.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Dick Fain from Sports Radio 93.3 FM, and we're discussing a little bit about the Seattle Mariners. We're still pinching ourselves after a 21-year drought. I saw a tweet this morning. Your kids are already scaring Blue Jays.
Yeah, how about that? And just totally random too. I'm walking my daughter to the bus. This is not something that happens often, or we even see a Blue Jay very often. But she likes them, and she's seen them before. But she saw it at the end of the driveway, and she just yelled Blue Jay, and the thing flew away. And I'm like, dude, we got him on the run already.
That's awesome. So in previous episode I had you on, you've been a Mariner fan, a Seattle fan forever, haven't you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. In fact, there was a time in my life when baseball was my favorite sport, and the Mariners were probably my favorite team of all the teams in Seattle. That was probably, all the time, from when I was 12, 13, when I was collecting baseball cards all the way up through high school. I mean, the Mariners were, even though they stunk, I was a diehard Mariner fan, and there's no question about that.
I said I joined the Navy. I arrived here in Bremerton, Washington around 1990. I went to a lot of Mariner games. Wasn't money anyone there, but I really enjoyed it. The Kingdome and the atmosphere, and I've been around for here for a while, so I've seen the highs and definite lows of the organization.
No question, a lot of lows.
So do you remember where you were in 2001, the last time the Mariners made the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, I was a fledgling talk show host, basically more of an update anchor than I was a talk show host, but at the same company I am right now, or the same station I am right now. And in 2001, I was back living with my folks because I was making zero money at all at the radio station. So I'd moved back in with mom and dad. So I think I watched most of those games at home. And I just remember being so like superstitious and so OCD, man. Like we had a little puppy dog that we had just gotten, probably, I don't know, 6 months old. And I would sit there, and the only thing I could do to like keep myself occupied between pitches, because I was so nervous, was I would just throw the tennis ball for the dog. And she would literally chase this thing for 3 hours. And now, like, I felt like I had to keep throwing it, because if I stopped, bad things were going to happen to the Mariners.
Bad juju.
Yeah, I'd like have to hit like a certain spot on the wall at the end of the hallway. I was like, okay, if I don't hit that spot, it's going to be bad things are going to happen. I just like was totally freaked out about the Mariners game. And I'm wondering if I'm going to get that nervous when I'm watching this weekend.
You'll sit in the same spot, drink the same way.
Yep, exactly. I was so superstitious back then.
So fast forward last year, we missed the playoffs by one game. Did you think the Mariners did enough to make the playoffs this year?
I did. I thought they'd be a playoff team this year, and I thought this was kind of and even last year. I mean, I used to tick Softy off, in August and September of last year when we were kind of making that run. And I would just say, hey, this is gravy, man. I really don't care if they make the playoffs this year, because this isn't their year anyway. I care about 2022. And now he's getting me back, because he's basically saying the same thing about the Seahawks this year. He's like, I don't care about 2022, just as long as they make the playoffs in 2023. So we've kind of flipped our mojo. I was kind of whatever on the Mariners last year, and he's kind of whatever on the Seahawks this year, where I'm like, hey man, we could still make the playoffs this year. The NFC sucks. So, it's kind of funny, but yeah, I did think that they did enough to make the playoffs. I didn't think they did enough to like go deep in the playoffs. And I still am, pretty doubtful that they have done enough to go deep in the playoffs, but this is a long-term process. And I wasn't one that thought that, in the offseason, they just had to go spend a ton of money and just bring 3 or 4 big free agents in, because, Jerry's building this from scratch, and he's doing it right. And he's doing it the long way. And I think that's the right approach. I would much rather have a nice, sustained 5+ year run of contention than, just buy a bunch of bats that just fill spots, block your young players from coming up. And who knows if those bats are even going to take off. I mean, we've seen many free agents from this last year's class come in and hit like 225. So you certainly didn't want to do that.
Speaking of young players, with the Mariners locking up Julio Rodriguez, what's that mean for the organization?
Well, I think that, first of all, you got a guy that just embraces the big moment. I mean, you saw it firsthand on that Monday night at the home run derby. I mean, that could have very easily been, a crash and burn situation for a 19-year-old kid or 21-year-old kid. I mean, he comes in and hits 4 home runs and it's all said and done. And instead he's like, no, I'm all about this. And you look at him, he's just, it seems like the bigger the stage, the more comfortable he is. And that's why I'm really excited to see how he does here in the playoffs, because, some guys just naturally rise to the occasion. I mean, remember what Junior hit over 500 in his first ever playoff series against the Yankees, just because Junior was bigger than the moment. And I think Julio is one of those really, really rare guys that actually is bigger than the moment.
As I heard you and Softy discuss where you're at on September 30th when the Mariners clinched the spot in the playoffs. Can you tell us what you were at that moment? I think you're with your kids, right, in the car?
Yeah. So I was, I was actually taking my kids home from that Clipper basketball game at Climate Pledge Arena. I had completely forgotten when I decided to take my basketball team that I coached to that basketball game that, we didn't know that was going to be the moment that the Mariners clinched, but I'd forgotten that the Huskies were playing on a Friday. And just my brain was like, oh yeah, the Huskies are playing on Saturday. Sure. I'm free on Friday night. I'll take my basketball team to the hoops game. And then we realized, all of Seattle sports are playing at that same time. So I'm driving home and, we're listening to Riz in the car and Cal hits that home run and the car goes nuts. And it was pretty cool. But that's a moment I'll never forget.
Cal Raleigh's name will go down in Mariner history for a long, long time.
Yeah, no kidding.
In your opinion, how far do you think the Mariners can go?
Well, I think this first hurdle is a really big one. I was a big proponent of the Cleveland, New York route. I really thought that if the Mariners got the 6th seed, that they'd beat Cleveland and that they would give the Yankees all they could handle. I'm a little bit more skeptical about this road. I think this first series is a toss-up. I give Toronto just a little bit of the edge being at home and with that potent offense. I'm a little bit worried about Robbie Ray going in against that big-time right-handed hitting lineup, going back to his old stomping grounds. I do think Castillo pitched well. I do think if we get to a game 3, Logan Gilbert will pitch well. So we'll see. I mean, I on the air, I picked the Blue Jays in 3. So, I mean, I hope I'm wrong, obviously. And then if we get past Toronto, I mean, you got the stiffest test left in the American League after that. So I just want to see, I mean, it would be great just to see a series win and then a legitimate series against Houston where the Mariners kind of show that they're like knocking on the door of Houston and that there's not like a massive gap still between the Astros and the Mariners. I think that would give us all a lot of hope. Even if we lost the division series to Houston, I think if you like took them the distance, played an amazing series, and we're just maybe a bat or 2 away from getting over the top in that series, I think that would give us a lot of hope going into 2023. Like, okay, we just need to fill this spot. We need to fill this spot. And then once we do that, we're just as good as Houston.
It's something about the playoffs is different because you need a little bit of everything from small ball to base running to coming off the bench in a clutch hit. I think the Mariners have a good core of players on the bench who come off in any situation to get that extra hit you might need to score a run or to get a rally going.
Well, yeah, look at their bench guys. I mean, when you look at the numbers of like guys like Toro and Torrens, they don't jump out at you. But remember, both of those guys have gotten hits at the biggest, most clutch moments. I mean, I remember a Sunday afternoon against the A's where Toro came in and won the game in the middle of the summer, and that's happened more than a few times. So I'm really confident if you get late in the inning or late in the game, and you need a Abraham Toro to come in and pinch hit, a Dylan Moore who's been playing better coming in to pinch hit. I mean, it's unfortunate we don't have Haggerty because it seems to me like you look at all the playoffs past in Major League Baseball, and it always seems like that guy off the bench that has great speed that comes in the 8th and 9th inning to take a base. That for us was Sam Haggerty. Now Dylan Moore's fast and he can kind of be that guy, but it would be really cool if you had both Moore and Sam Haggerty coming off the bench. And unfortunately they're going to be missing Haggerty.
But what if we get all the way and the sound of the World Series champion Seattle Mariners? Good, doesn't it?
I mean, it's coming at some point. I really do believe that sometime in this J-Rod era that, thank God, is going to last double-digit years, maybe multiple times. I mean, it's hard for me to sit here as a Mariner fan at 48 years of age and say, oh, yeah, the Mariners are going to make the World Series multiple times in the next 10 years. But I do think that they are as well set up to do that, maybe even better set up to do that than they were in the early 2000s, because in the early 2000s, that was an older baseball team.
Mm-hmm.
Boone wasn't young. Edgar wasn't young. I mean, Ichiro was young, but there was a lot of guys on that team that were in their 30s. And this year's team's not like that. I mean, there's a young core. Castillo's young, and all those pitchers, Gilbert and Kirby, and your bullpen guys for the most part are young. Hell, Munoz could be he could be an ace closer for 5+ years. Julio's young. You got a lot of guys. I mean, this is more, I think, kind of like a 94, 95-ish team than it is like a 2000, 2001 team. Because that 94, 95 team had those core young players like Buhner and Wilson and Griffey and those guys that, that were good for a long time. That just, the only problem was, they just didn't get any pitching to match in 96 and 97 and 98. They had all the offense in the world to win the World Series. They just didn't have it on the other side. And I think this team's going to be more balanced than that team was.
I definitely think the organization's done a great job. It took them a while. We got to, but I just, fingers crossed, and I got to find some Lucky Charms and some holy we could do tonight.
No kidding, man. It's going to be fun.
Appreciate the time. Thanks so much. Take care of yourself.
Absolutely. Hey, take care, Jody. Thanks.
Go Mariners.
Go Mariners.
Commercial. Break for 30 seconds.
Are you craving tacos? You know what? It doesn't have to be Tuesday to have tacos. You got tacos any day of the week. At TaquizaTacoShop.com, that's TAQUIZA, TacoShop.com, they have 5 kinds of tacos. Delicious tacos, as well as chimichangas and burritos and grilled jalapenos, my favorite. Their food's fresh, authentic, made daily. They're locally owned and operated here in Silverdale, Washington. They got a food truck and a Facebook page. You can go online and check out their amazing menu. Getting you hungry? You can place an order today at 360-698-4335, or you can stop by and check out their address is 10315 Silverdale Way, Silverdale, Washington. As I said, it's authentic, it's fresh, and 5 kinds of tacos. Delicious. That's Taquiza. TaquizaTacoShop.com. Every day is a day for tacos. Are you craving donuts? Not those one bite and done donuts that's been sitting on your local grocery store shelf for who knows how long donuts. No, sir. Lone Star Donuts here in Silverdale, Washington has over 50 flavors of donuts and other pastry items as well. These donuts are huge, fluffy, and delicious. So why not stop by and check out Lone Star Donuts? Or you can call them and place your order at 360-204-5021. Lone Star Donuts, the only kind of donut to have.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
The interviews I've done on this podcast and this episode were done a few days prior to the game. And in game 1, the Seattle Mariners jumped to a very early 3-0 lead with the help of a 2-run home run by Kyle Rowley. The victory was all the more thrilling for the Mariners because Julio Rodriguez was in the middle of it. The Phenom became the first youngest Seattle player to start in a postseason game. as well as the youngest to record a hit. He was also hit twice, and the Mariners stunned the Blue Jays fans, scoring 3 runs, and Luis Castillo shut down the explosive Blue Jay offense, scoring 7 in a third inning, while allowing only 6 hits, no walks, and striking out 5. He became the first Mariner player to throw at least 7 scoreless innings in a playoff game. And with 1 win down, will the Seattle Mariners be able to sweep in Game 2, or would it go to Game 3? Game 2 of the Seattle Mariners Blue Jays was a very rough one for Mariner fans, because Toronto scored in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th innings off Mariner pitcher Robbie Ray. They hit several key base hits and several home runs to pull to an early 8-1 lead, and honestly, I was pretty close to turning the game off. I didn't think the mojo was with us that day. I didn't feel that the Mariners could pull off back-to-back wins. But I kept the faith, and I'm still listening. See, I was working my part-time job, and I had YouTube Live on. I was watching it and listening at the same time. So it was rough to watch. But the next thing you know, the Mariners were getting some key base hits. And they scored 1 in the 5th and 4 in the 6th, cutting the lead down to 8-5. Toronto and Melbourne back in the 7th, taking the lead back to 9-5. But the Mariners would not go away. Kyle Raleigh had a base hit to score Suarez, cutting the lead back to 9-6. Then something crazy happened. With runners on, J.P. Crawford came to the plate with a golden opportunity to score some more runners. He hit one to shallow center field. I thought surely it was called. 3 players there. 3 chances were pretty good, but 2 Blue Jay players collided and they missed the ball. And more runners scored, making the lead disappear. It was now 9-9. The Blue Jay fans were silenced. Their lead of 7 runs had totally disappeared. In the top of the 9th inning, Adam Frazier took a double to right field, scoring Cal Raleigh, and the Mariners took the lead for the first time in the game, 10-9. At one time, the Blue Jays had a 96% chance probability of winning that had totally disappeared. And now the Mariners were 3 outs away from history, and I mean history because only 2 teams had ever come back from a 7-run deficit to ever win a playoff game. Could the Mariners have been hanging on? Could they hang on for 3 more outs? The Mariners used 7 pitchers. Why not call one more? George Kirby. For the 9th inning, he got the Jays hitter to ground out. And the second batter, he ended up walking, and I'm getting antsy. I'm going, oh no, here we go. Jays will have a walk-off home run to win the game. I've seen games when you walk someone and that run always bites you in the butt. But 2 more batters later, a hit to shallow center field, where Julio Rodriguez catches the ball and seals the win for the Seattle Mariners to advance to the American League Division Series. In my head, I could hear Dave Niehaus yelling, "My, oh my." What a great win by the Seattle Mariners. After talking to her friend, he called his mom and said, we won. And she had no idea. She turned the game off. So please, whatever happens the rest of the season, keep the game tuned in. You never know what history will be made next. Best of luck to the Seattle Mariners as they continue this wild ride in the 2022 playoffs. So find whatever lucky charms you can find, rabbit's feet, 40 clovers, and cheer on the Seattle Mariners. This is Chit Chat, the encouraging one-on podcast that's all out encouraging others and rooting for the Seattle Mariners.
This is Chit Chat,
the Encouraging One Another podcast. What it's all about, encouraging others.